Hello and welcome to another update for Sketchy Tactics. This is what, June 7th? I had to actually check the date. So have a pretty brief video for an update that's not going to look like too much happened, but it was pretty extensive amount of work, and that was the implementation of the actual critical hit chance mechanic. That had to be added to players, spells, enemies, factored into their planning AI, added into all the weapons, crit chance calculation, formula, a lot of stuff. It touched about 28 different files in the project. So it was a lot of work, but it's not going to show a whole lot because you're basically just going to see critical hits happen. But I'll show you a little bit of where it's wired in. So now if you check out a weapon like this, you're going to see 1 to 2 stats here that weren't here before. One is the base critical hit chance, so this weapon has a base chance of 5%, and then an increased critical hit. So this is a plus 50% increased critical hit chance. This is not a straight 50% increase, so there's a scaling factor in here. I'm not sure I exactly like the way this represents numerically at this point. But in this case, the base crit of 5, the formula would bump that up to a 5.25. So you actually have to stack a lot of critical chance increase to bump this up. And I may just represent this as a 5% increase or something of that, something like that. I'm kind of following another game that I play that does it this way, but it's not as clear as I would like it to be. So anyway, but that's just display values. Under the hood, it's all correct. And then we have a base crit chance on Sucker Punch as well. Now the nice thing is this crit chance, this plus 50%, is a global modifier, so it will actually increase the crit chance of our spells as well. And essentially the way a critical hit works is if one occurs, for every, and this is key for doing disgusting things, but for every damage mode on the weapon or every mode on the spell where a critical hit applies, it will actually, instead of rolling between the minimum and maximum value, it will just use the maximum value every time. And in the case of weapons, it will also apply this stacked crit damage stat. So there's a couple different kind of ways you can approach this. On the weapons, you could go for crit with a bunch of stacking crit damage, and it'll be less frequent but hit harder. Or you could go for a high critical hit percentage, not as much crit damage increase, and you could go for a mix of both. So there should be a range of ways to play that depending on whether you want to infrequently hit really hard and be proud of yourself, or pretty consistently hit for larger amounts but not massively. So I'll have to work on the balance for that, but that's the general concept. The spells do not benefit from the local crit damage increases on the weapons. May decide to change that. Not sure yet. And this is part of some changes to kind of finish off some things in the basic engine that need to be done before some other gear and mechanics get added. So I'm going to hop into a fight here. There, countdown. As a reminder, that countdown is for other players to join. And we're going to do some hits here and see if we give or take a critical hit. They have all a pretty low critical hit chance, so we may need to cheat to make some crits occur, but we'll see how it goes. Basically, when you get a critical hit, you'll just see the higher than normal damage plus a message saying critical hit. Yeah, kill that guy. So I'll just do a couple fights here until you can see the crits. Probably what I should have done is just jack that weapon up to be like 50% or something like that, but I tend to forget about those things and then have to redo videos halfway through when I surprise myself with all the debug changes in place. So we're just going to whale here. We're kind of going through and implementing some of the more complex fight mechanics, basically. So after the critical hits is adding all of the multi-damage mode capabilities to gear and spells, which is the ability to actually have a weapon that hits with, there we go, critical hit on the kite. Did 3 damage. Normally it's dealing 1 to 2 damage because it's a very low level enemy. Let's see if we can get a crit here. No. Okay. Well, anyway, I don't need to drag the video out. Seen the mechanics. Um, so the multi-damage mode weapons are actually going to have, it might have like 2 to 4 neutral and 1 to 2 fire. So it'll actually hit for damage of both types. That'll be a similar change to critical hit because I just need to go everywhere that processes that damage and add the consideration for multiple modes, and then change the crits and the damage estimation and calculation to factor all that in. And that'll be similar players, enemies, the whole 9 yards. So once we have that in place, then we can buff up some more of the gear, probably add some other gear types, and then we'll have most of the base mechanics done in the game, the kind of core starting mechanics, and a lot of the stuff that will need to be balanced from a gameplay perspective. So then we're going to go back to the content and start adding some more of the quests and areas and things like that. And I will continue the process of trying to find somebody to do art for the game and figure out if we're bringing somebody else in or hiring a contractor or something like that. So that's the plan at this point. Hopefully the next few updates will be a little bit more visual. You can see more stuff going on, but we are in kind of an under the hood phase, increasing the complexity level of some of the mechanics that you've been seeing in these videos for a while. So thanks for following along, and we'll catch you on the next update. Peace.